Mira Business FM, your daily guide to the markets, money, and more.
It's the Morning Drive. David McKenzie from Mackenzie Jones is here. Not the CEO, the Managing Director. I've been calling you CEO for 12 years.
It's fine. My name's in the title of the company, which is a bit... Don't ever do that, by the way, if you ever set your own company.
It is, yeah. It is a giveaway, isn't it? Well, what would you call your company if you didn't use your name? Like HR is us or something? I don't know.
I think a toy company's taken that, haven't they?
I think they have.
Actually, no, they've gone bust, haven't they?
They're not. Yeah, you're right. They have. There are other RSs.
What would I call my recruitment company?
What would be a great recruitment company name? Because they're very often, names or two partners together, I find. There's lots of recruitment companies.
So
like that.
here's a real reason we called it Mackenzie Jones. My name's Mackenzie, my partner's name was Jones. But it sounded more like a legal firm, so it had an inbuilt credibility to it.
That makes sense.
And also people relate to names of individuals. I think they quite like it. And it's a great business development tool, because when I phone up, they go, "Oh, you're the owner," and I would say, "Actually, I'm not. I'm the MD," because it adds a certain credibility.
Okay. So the mission, should you choose to accept it today, is to, by the end of this show, we'll come up with a new name for Mackenzie Jones.
Can it be radio positive? Because I've got other ones that I probably can't mention on the radio.
Yeah, I'm more worried about you than I am about me, to be honest. I have a semblance of common sense left. I've got to a point in my life where I don't just stick my finger in sockets.
Yeah, I know I do.
And you do, don't
absolutely.
you? Absolutely. Yeah.
Fair enough.
Looks nice to see you.
Thank you.
How candidates act in this market and what's happening in the market right now. So 20 minutes or so, I wanted to get this with you, because you made a statement this morning when you came in. You sent me a blog about how candidates act in the market, and you're being, I'll put this politely, you're being messed around by some people at the moment, which surprised me, because I would have thought at a time like now when things are uncertain, people want to nail down opportunities, stick with them, move ahead. Yeah. But you're not finding that.
No, and this isn't, by the way, junior candidates. This is senior candidates.
That's even more surprising.
So we've had a couple recently that have gone all the way through the process. And one of the things when you're recruiting, you reaffirm each stage of the process that the candidate's keen.
Right.
What does your wife think? What does your husband think? Is this a good move for you? What don't you like? The usual stuff.
Yeah.
And we've had a couple that have gone, I'm really keen. We got to the final stage. The client said, are they going to take it? We've gone, yep. We've reaffirmed with them. What would stop you starting? Are there any issues? Would your company buy you back? Which is a big thing these days when people counter offer you.
Okay.
And we've had two gone at the last stage. We've got them the offer, they've gone, actually, I don't think I want this anymore. And we've gone, why? Doesn't feel right. So you've been through 5 interviews with the CEO, HR director, finance and everything, and now you're saying, and we found out basically they've taken another offer elsewhere. So you're finding what that does, and this happens, by the way, in life. And one of the things, if you're ever dealing with a recruitment company, is be honest with them, because if you have doubts, that's fine. They can mitigate those doubts. They can try and overcome them. At the end of the process, you might go, look, I'm still unsure. We go, fine. If you're unsure, don't take the job. Because whenever you take a job, you've got to be 80% sure it's the right thing for you.
Specifically 80%?
Ish.
Right, okay.
Because the reality is there's always a percentage you go, I'm not sure, new company, new culture, new boss. There's always a bit of, the unknown in reality.
Yeah, fair. Okay. So what is it that this is happening now opposed to 3 months ago?
I think good candidates, and this sounds odd, are still in short supply. Okay. Really good candidates. There are less jobs around at the moment. And for example, we were doing a compensation and benefits role recently, which is a really difficult role to about C&B.
Comps and bends.
I'm really pleased you actually love that. I'm going to send you something about that. But they're in a real short supply in this marketplace. So finding a good one's quite difficult. Finding a good one with a strong personality is even more difficult, because they typically are more accountancy. So they're much more about numbers and about process and stuff there. But they sit under HR. So they need a personality as well, because HR is very about the lifeblood of a business.
Okay. Yeah.
So we had a couple of processes recently, and both candidates really mess us around. Now, that's fine, but clients remember that. And also, we remember if a candidate goes through a process and they mess us around. Because one of the things that we have really good candidates that we have a very good dialogue with. And the thing with a recruiter, you've got to find a recruiter that matches you as an individual, personality-wise, how you think. They've got to be your advisor. But you've got to be honest with them. If you're ever in any doubt through the process, you don't think this is the right job for you, tell your recruiter. They probably won't stop the process, but they'll question you, because we get paid when a candidate starts.
Right.
But the most important thing is we really earn our money and our reputation the longer a candidate stays there. Because if I go to you, Tim, I placed Faraji 2 years ago and they're a great person, that for us is a fantastic story.
That makes sense. Okay. So I still feel like there's a disconnect, because I feel now like we are seeing people, we're seeing not a deadening of recruitment, but there is less going on, isn't there?
Can I be honest? I think
Go on.
I think the recruitment market is down at least 50%, at least.
Okay, so that's your experience. You're in the market, so by extension, I would think people are like, no, I really need to hold on to this job, or I really need to grab this opportunity. But
again, it does sound odd, this, doesn't it? But it's the reality. It's supply and demand. We've got the jobs we do have often are very, very specific. So when you get briefed by a client, the reason they use a recruitment company is they're time deficient, they don't have a network, and they're happy to pay us a fee. And our fees aren't cheap. So what they want is, if they give us a brief, they want the A match. They don't want a B match or a C match, because they can find that. They need the perfect candidate. Yeah. So the reason you use us is because our networks are so good. We're so connected with those marketplaces. Like I do HR. So if you're looking for a C and B comp and bends person, I know the top 10 comp and bends people. Now, often they're not looking. So when we get them to get into a process, it almost is, do you see what I mean?
I'm with you now.
The market is very difficult at the moment, but clients are still looking for exceptional people, and if anything, their requirements have got tighter because they can afford to do that.
It's a good start for how people, are acting in the market, because this comes from a blog that you sent me. This was a LinkedIn blog, I guess. Yeah. Okay, so the central thesis is this, right? Acting as a top-tier candidate in the 2026 job market requires shifting from a passive applicant mindset to a proactive talent seller approach.
Yep.
So this is really about going for it at the moment.
Yeah, if you're going to be looking for a job, be all in.
Right.
But if you're not all in, don't be afraid to tell your recruiter, look, I have some concerns. It's a two-way thing. This is a relationship. So when you meet a recruiter, your relationship with that recruiter will probably last 10 to 15 years. So if I look at one of my clients, Kirsty...
Actually, this is a good example in this room.
Yeah,
I've just realised. Yeah. Not that you're my recruiter. Can I imagine that?
Well, I'll give you an example. I've got a client called Kirsty who works for a very big drinks company. She's amazing. I've known her since she was at BAT years ago. So I've known her for 15 years.
A BAT?
British American Tobacco.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
right,
the big.
Gotcha. Yes. Right. You and your acronyms.
I know. I'm like acronym central.
I'm going to throw that into conversation. When I was at BAT in '72.
It's a company name you do first.
No, I know, but it sounds great, doesn't it?
Faraji's going, I knew what you were talking about.
People don't know. They're just like, oh, BAT.
Yeah, actually, great. I do sometimes fall into acronyms, and my wife looks at me and goes, yeah, I've no idea what you just said. I said, why didn't you ask me? She goes, I've really lost interest.
I do that with my wife a lot as well. But she's from Scotland.
She's Glaswegian, yeah.
Exactly, so that's just how it works.
So I've known her for 15 years, and our relationship's been her as a candidate, her as a client. I've never placed her as a candidate, but she's always asked for my advice on jobs she's going for.
Okay.
So your relationship with your recruiter changes as you become more senior and becomes more of an advisor.
And that's not just because you're quite gregarious and outgoing. You're quite a friendly guy. Is that kind of an ideal HR jobs recruitment kind of person? That's how you need to be.
No, you don't. And I've got a couple of recruiters. I've got a guy who works on my banking desk. He's more of an introvert, but he's a subject matter expert. He knows about private banking. He knows about wealth management. He knows about family group. He really understands his market very well. Whereas I don't understand that market as well. So when you hear him talking to his clients, it's a very different conversation to mine.
Right. Okay.
But they come to him because he knows exactly what he does. The reason why Mackenzie Jones is so successful is because we're functional specialists. So we do HR, finance, legal, banking, etc. So we have individuals that really know their sectors. We're not generalists.
Okay. So the market at the moment is defined by, let me just run this by you. This is from this blog, a high competition, AI-powered screening and a need for, but a shortage of qualified talent. So to stand out, you've got to treat your job search as a strategic marketing campaign. That's the phrase that stands out. So that's kind of the required mentality.
Yeah.
But I would contend, and I think you probably agree to a certain extent, that's kind of how it always should be.
Yeah, but it amazes me. And I know
but people don't do that. But it's
people go. It's a bit like, when you go and buy a car. Okay, a car is a very expensive thing to buy.
Sure.
You spend ages looking in the store. You do reviews. You ask friends. It's amazing how many people go, I think I'll start looking for a job now, and they go onto LinkedIn and easy apply. They don't think about, right, what's my process? Where do I need to go to? They almost it really is it's not a very well thought out process. I'm amazed. Even the most senior people don't treat this as a process that should go on for years. I mean, the reality is, when I was in recruitment, I looked at my career in a 10-year gap. So, right, I started at this company as a consultant. I wanted to be here. Then I'd probably move to a different type of company. And I already planned, right, when I move out of my company, where do I want to go? These are the 4 companies I want to go to. So years earlier, I'd be connecting up with these people, understanding what they're doing. I was sharing blogs that related to their company so that I went on their radar. So when I got to a director at Michael Page, I got headhunted by the company I really wanted to go and work for, which was Monster.
That's very strategic of you.
I know.
How did you know that?
And you wouldn't think it by looking at me, would you?
That's not what I said, but
Faraji was thinking that.
back of my mind. Faraji's thinking a lot of things as he mines crypto. Whatever. I don't know what he does. I wish, and I really mean this, I wish I could think that strategically. Because if I look at my career, it's kind of in one area.
Yeah, but
right?
you're creative. You have a different...
I don't know if that's true or not. I seem to have just sort of fallen head first into holes. And then it's often worked out okay.
Honestly, I think 90% of people are like that.
Good.
But I think what you're asking for, what the utopian view is, and I
Sure.
think what people need to do is they need to plan their career constantly. You should always be looking for a job, but it's a passive, what we call a passive search, because passive searches are the best candidates because there's no desperation. They think logically, and they're after something that often isn't money focused.
That's really good advice, actually. That makes a lot of sense. And the idea that if you're looking for a job, if you're really actively looking, rather than passively, well, I'd be open. Treat it as a strategic marketing campaign.
Absolutely,
and I think that makes a lot of sense. Okay, so act with, and this is there are a number of kind of ways of acting as a candidate in this market based on where we are, hiring trends this year. The first one. And I wonder if you can explain this or outline it a bit more. Act with strategic focus. So this is the quality over quantity idea, isn't it? So don't spray and pray. People do that, don't they?
Oh,
just like well, this is your
easy
thing.
apply on LinkedIn. It's the most rubbish thing. If LinkedIn's listening, get rid of this. It's the worst thing ever. It's the worst thing for clients, and it's the worst thing for candidates. We're unique in this region that we have this in terms of
this is not a thing.
It is a global thing.
It is.
The problem with the UAE, and this is a good thing and a bad thing, we're a melting pot. We've got 215 different nationalities here, all have different views on how to approach jobs or their search. But what we do have is a problem where people just keep pressing easy apply. So on average, each recruiter, when they place a job, they get between 800 and 900 replies. This is clients and recruiters, which means we're just inundated with CVs. This is why people use recruiters so much, because we have an invisible network of people we know. We often don't advertise our jobs. 80% of our jobs are not advertised.
I said to somebody recently, Dubai, we've got 220 nationalities. I don't know what the figure was. I made something up in my head.
I said it because you told me last week.
Yeah, well, no, but I said this is a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah.
220 nationalities is one of the nice things about Dubai, the melting pot thing. It is a nice thing. You looked at me and went, there's only 205 countries. How can there be 220 nationalities? And I went, I don't know.
Is that fact?
I don't know, something like that. I'd made up some stupid figure.
I've got to change my figures then. I just believe you and Faraji. I think actually this is your fault.
It is, yeah. I blame Faraz for everything. The poor guy.
I think the gist is there are lots of people here with different values, different views.
That's exactly the point. No, it's exactly the point. So act with strategic focus. Don't spray and pray. Yeah. That's the first thing. Be a low risk hire. Employers are cautious. Position yourself, and actually this makes a lot of sense, as somebody that can solve an immediate problem. You need to be a solution rather than
those two last things you said are exactly what this market is all about.
Right.
We are in a market that is tight. There are very few roles around now. So when a client is recruiting, they have to solve a problem, or they're doing a strategic hire. And by the way, we're finding this now. I said we're about 50% down. So we have two businesses. We have our executive recruitment business, which I work in. So I'm an HR recruiter. Yeah. Then we have our RPO business where we're on site with clients. That is doing really well. That's 20% up.
That's wild.
Because we're on site with clients and we are on 3-year projects or 2-year projects or 1-year projects. So that is irrespective of what's happening in the marketplace. We're there. We're solving a problem. So as the market gets tighter, when people are letting go their talent, people that they employ, they're pushing our guys on because we're an expense rather than an overhead. They can turn us off and turn us on. I went into too much detail then, but you guessed. So
I'm with you. I'm with you.
So when a client has got a mandate, they've really thought about it. They've really thought how it can impact and help their business. These aren't just, that might be a nice hire. These are strategic hires. So when they are looking for somebody, they're looking for what we call an A match. Has to be, there's 10 criteria, you have to fit 8.
Okay, so this is not like, abracadabra, I'm going to magic somebody out of the air. This is the person for you, and it's unequivocal.
So a client has to go, when they see it, they go, this isn't a barnacle, this is a puffer fish. It's got to be the perfect person. You can't just have somebody who is they're not. A client has to come back to me. And I had one the other day. I'm working with a very big shipping company at the moment for a chief commercial officer. Yeah. My client said, I want this person. I found her 2 of those people. They are absolutely spot on. She went, fantastic. I'm going to interview both. We'll hire one.
Okay. And it's not just, it's somebody who can solve a problem. Experience is important, isn't it?
Yes.
But that's not the thing. This is, you need to be in there and say, I can do that. Oh, I can sort that. That's the attitude.
But give evidence. So when they look at your CV, example, if they want somebody that has done HR within a consumer company, must have worked on drinks category, carbonated, worked in Saudi and UAE, and you've got to be very good at market research, etc. So if we send somebody who's just a good drinks person that's done marketing, that's not good enough.
Yeah. It's
got to be very specific.
Yeah, and that's why easy applies. So,
well, the problem is, and you know what? I got a call from one of my clients the other day, who's actually a candidate, and she said to me, "I keep applying to you, David, and these jobs look perfect for me, but they don't fit." And I sat her down and said, "Look at your CV, look at that job. You are not right for that job. You're a great candidate, but you don't fit what my client's looking for." I think candidates get really frustrated with recruiters and with clients because they see a job and go, I can do that job, and yet they get rejected every time. And there's a reason behind it. You have to read the advert because it will have an exact description of what they're looking for. The problem is most people go, yeah, but I can still do that. That's not what a client's looking for. They're buying experience. They're buying proven experience.
Yeah, it makes sense.
Yeah, it's frustrating.
No, do you know, it's funny that if you're a person that looks at a job ad and thinks, I can do that. See, I look at job ads and I think, nah. I'm looking for the fact that I don't fit most of the time. Is that maybe that says a lot about me, doesn't it? I just admitted something.
Faraji's laughing really hard. I think there's a certain thing with you, Mitch, maybe imposter syndrome, and I think a lot of candidates have this. They don't believe they can do the role. So I had a very, very, very good lady the other day who was quite young.
Right.
And we were putting her forward for a director's job, and she said, I don't think I can do this. And I went, okay, tell me why. And she went through her CV, and she told me exactly why she could do that job. And she just said, well, what happens if I fail? If you fail, you fail. But if you don't try, you'll never be able to fail, but also you'll never be able to succeed. So we put her into that interview process. She got to final stage. She didn't get it in the end, but she came out of the process knowing that she can do that.
And she learned a valuable lesson.
Exactly.
There,
yeah. And the thing is, the problem with the Middle East, you've got people like yourself that don't believe they can do it, but then there's about 90% of the population think they can do anything.
Do you know what? It's not that I don't believe I can do it. It's. Do you know what it honestly is?
What?
It's mainly, I couldn't deal with those people.
Well,
that's probably but then more of an issue.
But that's a reality check. So
yeah, it is.
I think what the reason why some of these people have turned these jobs down that we put forward, because they've gone through the job and they've gone, I really want to do that, I don't want to do that bit, managing a team, so I'm going to turn it down. Why don't you tell us that? I don't want to do the managing bit.
That's a good point.
So we'll go back to the client, look, he wants to do this, but doesn't want to manage a team. The client might have gone, okay, we'll put those team with somebody else.
Yeah.
Unless there's a communication going on. But you're absolutely right. Because you don't want to do that, that helps us and it helps the client. Because they might go, actually, we really like your skills. So what we're going to do, we're going to change the job slightly for you so we can fit you into it.
And again, we're back to the be honest with your recruiter thing. Tell people the truth. This is what I really want to do, but I don't really want to do this. And if never the twain shall meet, but you never know.
Do you know what? That's what I find this in life. Somebody said to me the other day, it may have been you actually, you're too honest. And I'm like, well, since when did honesty become an issue? Because if you're rude and honest, I understand that. But in work, if a client says to me, what do you think of this candidate? They look great. I'm going to say, no, they're not good because these are the reasons why. Because they're paying me to give advice. And I'm super honest about that.
There's another side to your honesty, though, and I would observe this, and I think anybody listening would probably agree with this. You're not, when you're being brutally honest, and you are brutally honest, but that's what the role calls for. That's what you're being paid to do, right?
Exactly, yeah.
But you're not, I've never known you to be personally involved.
No.
So there is always that separation there. That you're being honest not to have a pop at somebody, just because it's not right at this point for this role at this time, whatever it is, right?
But I think
that's the difference.
Honesty is very good because what it does, people know that you're being genuine about feedback. Yeah. If you're ever rude to somebody, it's inexcusable. Now, somebody asked me the other day, do you like every candidate you meet? The answer is no.
Of course you don't.
But I do like a lot of them. And the reason is because
you like people.
Very true. But also the industry I work in, HR, I find the people that work in that industry are very personable anyway. But I see so many different types of people. I really like the way they think and they operate because their job as HR is about the wealth and health of the organization they're in.
Yeah.
And it's all about understanding how people can affect the growth of that business. So I think by the very nature of that industry I work in, I really love it. Now, could I work dealing with actuaries and insurance companies? The answer is probably no. Because I don't connect with them as people.
No, that's fair. So that's why you have a company that specialises in particular areas.
Exactly.
Okay, I've got that. The thing is now, I mean, honesty doesn't really matter anymore, does it? Let's face it. Now you could just lie about stuff. We've got fake news everywhere. You just put stuff online and pretend it's true.
I'm too old for that.
World leaders do it.
Yeah. Do you know what? I'm not going to rant now because Fraji's looking at me about to press the button. We are in such a situation because somebody has lied. And I think the UAE has got the capacity to change very quickly and we'll bounce back out of this. So I think we're 50% down recruitment terms. I have no concerns about this market, none at all. Good. Because I know we're coming out of it.
Okay.
And I know that the UAE's got this amazing ability to bounce back again. If I was in Europe, I'd be really worried now. Because I don't think the European leaders or the UK especially have got a Scooby. They should come here and learn from us.
A Scooby is a Scooby-Doo, which is a clue. It's rhyming slang.
I love that. Just a quick intervention on behalf of David. But you know what I mean?
I do.
And this is why I think I'm giving bad news that the market is down, but I'm an eternal optimist. In 6 months' time, we'll be sitting here and we'll be talking about how do we find enough people to fill jobs you've got.
Yeah, okay. So, I mean, it's reinforcing that you still feel it's a temporary situation. That's a good thing. So it's a positive message. The other thing, we've got through the first section of this. It's just after 9:30. Acting with strategic focus. But I think this is a really important point because I was quite surprised at how important this is. But don't spray and pray. Be a low-risk hire. Be a problem solver. The other part in this is highlight learnability. So recent certifications or your AI adoption tools that the fact that you're able to adopt, new technologies, that you're open.
Yeah.
Learnability, I thought was a good phrase.
Never heard that one's brilliant.
No, I know it is.
No, but I think it sums it up. I think one of the things I think clients ask in interviews, they say in the beginning, tell me a bit about yourself. So one of the things you've got to have is you've got to have that 5-minute elevator pitch, a bit about what you've done in your career. So make sure it's a 5-minute, not a monologue. It's just, this is how I started my career. This is where I got to. This is my current role. This is what I've done. This is what's been successful. These have been my learnings. Boom, done.
Okay.
But one of the things people like to see, and I've noticed this quite a lot, when people look at CVs, I've seen clients flick over to the last page and they look at the interests.
See, I know that you're supposed to have an interests.
You
column.
do, yeah.
But I always put travel, cinema. I know, really.
Dinner with friends.
Cycling.
That's on mine, actually.
Yeah, I bet it is, yeah.
No, but the thing is, and the reason is, you're in a false situation. You're in a meeting with somebody which is going to be very intimate for an hour. They're going to ask you personal details about how you've been successful, what you failed at. And what clients like to do is have a bit of an intro and a soft entry, and not about the weather or the traffic or what's going on here.
Yeah.
It's often they look at your interest, and is there a commonality, like cycling? Oh, you're a cyclist, so you've been to Al Qudra. Yeah, I've been there. It's a soft opening. It's like a warm-up.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. I mean, it's an entry point, isn't it? It's a way
Exactly.
in. Yeah, okay. No, that makes some sense. So that's the first three things. This article is how you act as a top-tier candidate in 2026. So strategic focus is the first thing, quality over quantity. Here's the thing that I really struggle with, okay? And I've been told this loads of times, that, you have to think about your own personal brand. And I just think that I'm a human. I'm not a brand, but I really struggle with this. And I'm not sure I believe... In fact, I probably don't believe in personal branding, if I'm really honest.
What do you think a personal brand is then? What's your definition in your mind?
The issue with it is people say it and I think, I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah, but that's those human influences, isn't it?
Well, very often, yeah. And I think people tend to not cut to the chase, and they use a lot of jargon, personal brand and marketing terms that I don't really understand, that I don't think are really that important. I would rather just sit and have a chat with somebody and say, look, this is what I think, this is how I operate, kind of thing. So acting as a professional brand, visible, being authentic, all of those things, what does that mean, is my question.
Yeah, so if I looked at your personal brand, one of the things I would say with you isn't...
Character destruction on the way.
I'm going to be positive. I think you're an inquisitive interviewer. I think you generally have an interest in most of the things you do. Whether that's a real or a perceived interest, as an interviewer, I think you have to have a perceived one as well, because you're not going to be interested in every subject. But
no, you're not. But this job is not to talk. This job is to listen.
Exactly. But you have an interest. You know how to sit in front of someone like me, who is an absolute extrovert, and be able to control my conversation by asking me very key points. And I think that's an art form. So if I looked at your personal brand, I would put inquisitive. And interested, that would be my view of you. When I look at candidates, I never ask them what their personal brand is, because I'm a bit like you. That smacks of influencers, and I don't like the whole...
But the terminology is just turn off, isn't it?
Yeah, because I think it's become bad. I think when people influence, I think it's a very negative connotation now, because it's seen as people that are slightly vacuous.
Yeah.
But if I look at influencers in my industry, in recruitment terms, I look at people who have an interest in people, an interest in their profession, and they have a view and a point about it. That, to me, is somebody who's going to influence me and people like you. So if I say to somebody, what's your personal brand, which I never would say, I like them to come up with a reason why I should hire them.
Okay, so if I was to say to you, if I'm looking for a role like this, for example, and you said, so Tim, tell me what your personal brand is. After I finish slapping you around the head with a fish, I would, or something.
Fish.
I don't know. It's the best I could do, short notice.
Yeah, fair enough.
I would say, if I said to you, well, look, I'm genuinely inquisitive and I'm interested and I feel that I'm engaged, all of those particular phrases, is that the right thing to do with you? Maybe not in that way, but you know what I'm heading at.
I think it is, yeah.
Okay.
I think it's, if you want to know what somebody's brand is, talk to them and ask how they think and what their interests are, and you'll quickly get an idea of what that person's all about.
Okay.
See, I think you're good at doing it if you look at your personal brand, because your role is mainly listening, but it's also prompting, guiding, and getting a conversation that doesn't dry up.
Yeah, I'm good at AI as well now. I've learned how to do that. I'm good at prompting AI.
You're great at recruiting now. I reckon you should be a recruiter.
Yeah,
you know about comp and bends anyway.
I do. I could do the terminology. I'd be like, well, BAT,
So
72.
if I was a candidate and I'm listening to this now and I ask myself what my personal brand is, what do you stand for? Where do you see yourself career-wise? And how can you add value to a company? That last point is the most important one.
Yeah, clearly that's the key. What problems can you solve for that company? What can you do? All right, so in order to, let me just run through a couple of things from this article. To act and look and to be a professional brand, to have your brand on point. Here are two things, I think. Building a digital footprint, sharing insights. We've talked about this ad infinitum. Comment on posts to show you're active, show you're informed. That makes you more findable to recruiters. That's all fair. The other thing here, optimize LinkedIn for AI and humans. So, and I think this is really important, and this is something that I didn't really think about a great deal when I joined LinkedIn. Ensure your profile has a clear headline, professional photo, measurable achievements. You know, things like increase revenue by 25%.
Absolutely.
That's really important.
Yeah. I think that whole thing about being able to. So I always describe LinkedIn as your CV on there as an hors d'oeuvre.
Yeah.
What it does, it gets people interested to the extent where they will connect up with you, and then they'll request a meeting or they'll request a conversation.
Gotcha.
So you've got to make your LinkedIn profile as exciting and as appealing as possible to what you want to do. So don't make it all fancy and everything. Just so if you're in HR and you see your career in HR and you particularly like the drinks industry, make it very focused on that area.
Okay.
Because people want specific things, and I think you've got to really find what your essence is. If I'm in a lift with you and I say to you, what do you do? You've got to be able to give me a very short between floor B and 1 what you are. So that is retained by that individual when they leave.
Do you do that in lifts?
I can do a lot more on lifts than that.
Can you really?
I'm like a ninja.
I never know what to do in a lift when you're with a lot of people. Do you say hi to the person next to you?
Yeah, I don't get in a lift. I'm very chatty.
You do, don't you?
Awful. I even talk to the delivery drivers. I say, what have you got in there today?
Oh, God, really?
And they go, what's that? And I go, what's inside the bag? They go, it's food. What sort of food? Chinese, Indian? And they're like, it's 9 o'clock, sir. I'm really a bit tired. I almost got hit by a truck, so I really don't want to talk to you.
Oh, dear. I'm so sorry I invited you. But see, that's the authentic you, right? This is how you are. But this was, I know I use that on purpose. This is the last point of this particular segment, okay? Act as a professional brand. So optimize LinkedIn for AI and humans. Make sure you're nice and clear online. Build your digital footprint so you're active, you're engaged. And then the last one here is authentic. AI can enhance an application. We all know that. So you get your grammar right, you can come up with great phrases, etc. But recruiters are increasingly attentive to consistency and authenticity.
Yes.
So how do you know that somebody's authentic? I mean, it's potluck, isn't it?
Yeah, it's very easy. Look at the blogs they write.
Okay.
Look at how they write them, because there are some people on LinkedIn, I see at the moment, they're almost writing because that's what they think people want to read. And then you see some really good blogs where people have wrote a very personal view of what they're doing, and they ask questions and stuff. So you can see generally how there's one of my consultants, Elena, is very good at writing blogs because she writes it as a mum. Her stance is she's a mother recruiter. She balances her life, and this is how she does recruitment. And she's very good at HR, and she's got an amazing following because people love how she communicates on LinkedIn.
She is good.
Very
Is
good.
this the one that you sent me?
that's
This
Elena,
is,
yes.
well, we're going to come to her blog in a minute, or a recent blog from her in a minute, because it's the what's happening in the market now. Elena Sopocheva.
Our
Okay.
Ukrainian mum.
Okay, so HR talent partner and principal consultant. She should put on there mother recruiter. That would be.
I think she has, hasn't she?
I haven't got that here. But
She might have it on a LinkedIn profile because
mother recruiter's good.
I'm sure, if you said that really quickly, that might cause a few issues.
Yeah, well, it could do, but no, that works.
Having a quick
So
look.
we'll come to that in a minute because I wanted to bring in. She said a couple of really interesting points in there, and I'll point to those in a bit. This is how to act at the moment in this market. Let me just run a few headings to you so we can get through this. Act as a networker, not just an applicant, is one thing. Okay, so prioritize referrals and engage directly. So reach out to hiring managers on LinkedIn.
Yep.
Important at the moment. Act with commercial awareness. So show, don't tell. Have you heard of the STAR method?
No.
Do you know what that is? Okay, so this is structure your interview answers by explaining the situation, the task, the action, and the result to highlight your impact.
Like that.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I'm going with the, if you nod positively, it's okay. If it's not,
I'm not sure that's always a good bellwether of success, but fair enough.
no, but it's the best I've got at the moment.
Very low bar there.
But I thought that was quite interesting.
Yeah,
So
very
situation,
good. Yeah.
task, action, result, that to highlight impact. Focus on outcomes. So instead of just saying, listing like duties, like the laundry list of stuff that nobody needs, focus on metrics like, and you've already said this, revenue growth, cost savings, time efficiency, risk reduction, and a user manual for yourself. This I kind of liked, so that you're not just commercially aware, you're self-aware. So be honest. Be ready to be honest as well about your working style, the achievements that you've made, which you've highlighted, and also lessons from failure. That's important, huh?
Super key, because that shows two things. One is you learn from your mistakes. The other one is humility, which is sorely lacking sometimes in this market.
It's not a thing in 2026, is it? Humility
anymore? I think it's amazing. I think I've just hired a new guy who's coming on board, and he's 46, 40. I said, you look amazing for your age. And he went, thank you. He said, I dye my hair. And I was like, that just made me laugh. Because you know what? He wasn't afraid to say it.
Good on him.
And that, I'm making a slight joke of this, but he actually did say that, by the way. But the reason he did that, and that gave me a sense of what he was like as a person. When he's in a client meeting, he'll be very genuine about the goods and bads of what we do. We don't solve every client's problem, by the way. We don't place every candidate we meet.
Sure.
It's just a fact.
Yeah.
What we're really good at, and what our name is very good at, we're very honest, we're very transparent, we build long-term relationships with you, and we will give you a very honest answer if there's an issue. And we'll try and solve it. That's why we've been here 20-odd years, and people like us as a recruitment company. We've built our brand on a personality, and that's all of our individual people.
Is there anybody that doesn't like you?
Yes.
Really?
Yeah, quite a few.
Yeah, okay. What do they say about you?
I'm not going to say that on air.
No, I know you're not.
Farage,
It's good.
curtail this. I
but
think
that's good though, because that immediately shows a little bit of balance. It's perfectly acceptable to talk up the good stuff, but as long as you recognise the bad stuff.
There are, and we're constantly trying to improve ourselves. So one of the things, once we placed a candidate, we send a message to the client. How was the process? How was the consultant? What could we learn from that? Was there anything we could do better? An example, we had a candidate that left a job before the notice period. And the client said to me, I know we're slightly outside our terms, but, can you help us out? And I said, absolutely, we'll give you a free replacement.
Wow. Okay.
Because the reason is that client's been a client of ours for 10 years. They've paid us on time. They've always given us briefs. The candidate was 2 days outside the refund period. So my view is they're a great client. She didn't even ask for that. I gave it to her, and she was eternally grateful for that. But we've been a client with her for 10 years. She's given us a lot of money.
So the 10-year relationship becomes a 20-year
exactly,
relationship.
And and it wasn't our fault at all. The candidate left; it was their fault.
Mm-hmm.
They admitted that. That's fine.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Learn and grow.
Yeah.
So here's a summary checklist for 2026. All right. Then from this, how to act in this market. Let me put this to you, see if you agree with this. Your CV should be tailored, your CV resume. Your LinkedIn profile should be polished, thought through, tidy. First thing to do, yes. I suppose, your shop front. If you like. 5 to 10 targeted high-quality applications weekly.
Oh.
Is that a reasonable figure, do you think? Yeah, if you're really looking at this as a strategic marketing campaign.
Yes, I think that's actually probably a quite good fit. Providing
seems a lot, but I mean,
I'm assuming you're talking about people who are actively looking now, not passively.
This is active.
5 a week sounds good.
Actively in a job search. Because it seems to me 5 to 10, you have some control over. You're going to remember names, you're going to remember times and dates and the relevant point.
It's like that. When somebody calls you up and said, "Hi, you applied to the advert recently," you need to be really clear what that company is. Because if you go, "I'm sorry, which one was that?"
Not good.
No,
but I think that's a really important point. Yeah. So, people are always, you're not working hard enough to try and find a job. No, actually, if you're targeted in that way, that seems to me to be a lot more sensible.
Yeah, it makes sense.
Okay. 5 personal networking messages weekly. Different ways of doing that, of course, but that's about being engaged, communicating.
I'd say more, actually.
Well, I thought you might. Actually.
Because the whole point is you should be, if you're a passive job seeker, you should be connecting up with probably 5 to 6 new people every month. New people.
Okay.
And then you should be connecting with 5 or 6 people at least. How's it going? I saw your article, really liked it. I'm just about to do this blog. What are your thoughts? Building that sort of content. And these are companies you potentially want to go to in the future.
I mean, the thing is with that, though, it's the same thing as the scattergun approach to CVs, isn't it? If you talk to too many people, I mean, how many guests do we have in here every morning? Probably 4, 5, sometimes 6 guests. That would be the maximum. But, it's showbiz rules in here, so I love the person in front of me the most, but I've forgotten their name as soon as they walk out the door. Not quite, but
I love the savage honesty. David who?
Mackenzie what? No, it is. It's not quite that bad, but it's very easy when you're in early communication with somebody they're not at the forefront.
Yeah, you need to make sure you're front of mind. So in those subtle prompts where you like somebody's post on LinkedIn, you put a comment, or you send them a personal message. Don't send them too many because it just becomes a bit odd. But make it relevant. So I loved your blog. Great idea. Any thoughts on this? Just remember, most people are very, very busy at the moment.
Yeah, well, that's a fair point. Yeah, you've got to that's a fine line to walk as well between staying in touch and becoming.
Yes, and
annoying.
And this is an interesting one because somebody asked me, how often should I contact you? If you're contacting me more than once a month, and we're not in a proper recruitment process, I may not come back to you because you've seen my LinkedIn and my messages. I think I get LinkedIn messages per day. I probably get 20 or 30 people linking into me.
Yeah, that's...
I probably only accept 2 to 3.
No, that makes sense. I've seen the number of messages you've shown that it would drive me nuts. Yeah, my OCD would kick in there.
Well, the WhatsApp thing is a killer for me because one of the things I'm really good at, and my brand is I always go back to people, but I have to keep that list as a very small list because I can't go back to everyone. I try to, and that's my biggest failing. I haven't got time to come back to everyone. Yeah. So I try and pick the ones that are best for me, unfortunately.
So, it's good advice to be mindful of that and to, realize there are other people in the world and they're not like you.
But when you're looking for a job, your world narrows down to a very, very small universe. I want to get a job. I'm going to contact as many people as possible. And your point about 5 and those numbers is very accurate.
That's good. the last couple of things, active upskillings, certifications and courses, that kind of goes without saying. If you have the opportunity to upskill, then why not? It's not going to do any harm, as long as it's relevant, of course. To
but
what
especially
you're doing.
now, if you've lost your job, and I think a lot of people are losing their jobs now, don't just sit on your sofa and watch Friends.
Friends.
I don't know why I thought Friends.
I don't know, but
Christ doesn't even know what Friends is, does it?
because it's on. Because it's, I mean, it is on all the time, yeah.
But my point being, it could be anything, it could be below deck. Make sure you do. Make sure you go, right, I've got some time now. How am I going to proactively keep myself focused? Yeah. So start writing blogs on LinkedIn. Make sure they're positive ones. Maybe look at upskilling yourself in terms of doing an AI course or something online through one of the big course companies here. There's loads here. Maybe say to a company, I know that you're not looking at people. Can I come and do an internship for you for a bit? Do you need any help?
Okay.
Offer your services pro bono. I've seen some really good candidates at the moment going, look, I'm not working at the moment. If anybody needs help in marketing, give me a shout. I'm happy to offer you free work. Often that free work becomes paid work because they like you and they offer you a permanent job.
Okay, well, there's a way of doing it. The AI course thing, is that, because I see that all the time.
Worth doing,
it's like an Instagram thing, but it is worth doing.
I think things like, you've got to look at your CV, and if you're in HR, where are your weaknesses? Are you great at organisational development? Are you great at talent? But you're really bad at comp and bends. So maybe focus on that. Try and look at your weakest point in your CV and try and upskill yourself on it.
Okay. And professional content engagement, writing blogs, writing, interesting posts, offering commentary.
Just done one today. I hope you like and share.
I haven't seen it yet, but I will read it.
It was based on our conversation about ghost jobs. So,
okay.
Because we did this, it took a life of its own. Arabian Business quoted me, then LinkedIn asked me to write an article. I've just written one, and it's based on our conversation.
It was an interesting discussion, I have to say. John, we've not got to the last thing in this. This is really how to act as a candidate in the market. Yeah. What's happening in the market, it will have changed by next week. But I think lots of the points that Elena, who works with you, here's what she said. I'm asked what's happening in the market right now on almost every candidate call. And then she talks about what she's seeing across the GCC. And I think it'd be interesting. Maybe we'll look at this next week.
But here's a good example. She's seen as an influencer in recruitment because she's giving a view of what she perceives the market is doing.
Well, she says it's not a slow market. She says it's a selective market.
Absolutely.
Right. Well, we'll look at what that means next week in this segment. Unfortunately, time ran away today.
But look at that. We're spot on, though.
I know. It's not bad, is it? Anybody think we do this for a living?
I don't.
No, nor do I. David McKenzie is the MD of McKenzie Jones. He's also known as the notable mogul of McKenzie Jones. That's good, isn't it?
That's very good.
Yeah, you can have that one for free.
Thank you.
Nice to see you.
And you.
This is Mira Business FM.
Mira Business FM, where business comes to talk. Mira Business FM.
This is the Morning Drive. It's Mira Business FM. Dubai's property market staying resilient is the phrase that leaps off of the page of one report at the moment. More than 57,000 homes sold in the first 4 months of this year to the end of April, despite the uncertainty and the geopolitical tensions we've seen. Off-plan properties continuing to dominate. Nearly 3/4 of all sales. So that, relatively flat, that's generally the case. But here to make sense of the resilience, what it means for the rest of the year, perhaps, is Ali Siddiqui. He's research manager at Cavendish Maxwell. It's good to have you here, Ali.
Good morning, Tim. Thank you so much for having me.
It's nice to meet you as well. So, I mean, basically, the start of all of this is that Dubai's real estate market is kind of in a reality of its own. There's no real change, is there?
That's true. That's true. So we saw close to around 57,000 transactions recorded in the first 4 months. Now, majority of those transactions came in during January and February, which were basically record months. Transactions grew compared to the previous year. However, we did see a minor moderation in March and April. Now, the reason for that is something to do with a combination of factors. First, we had Ramadan. We had our Eid holidays as well.
Yeah.
On top of that, we also had a reduction in the number of new launches. Now, what we had seen last year, for example, last year was a record performance, both in terms of transactions, in terms of new launches as well. We saw close to around 500 new launches every day. So basically 500 units launched every day. When you compare to 2024, it was roughly around 350, 400. From that, when we move into, let's say, 2026, the number of new launches have reduced.
Yeah.
So it's a combination of factors. You can't just basically say that, fine, the numbers in March and April were down due to the current situation in the market, but there were other factors in play as well.
Sure. I mean, there is hesitancy around. Obviously, there is. And there's a point at which I always feel, we talk to lots of real estate connected people on this program, and it felt last year as though, I think at one point there were 3 or 4 launches a day.
Yes.
It was really hard to keep up with. I was just bamboozled by the number of different names. Wouldn't have a clue. So what is it that drives this? There's this kind of persistent appetite for Dubai property. The rest of the world is cautious. Cost of living is high. What is it about Dubai? The UAE, I guess.
So Dubai or UAE or Abu Dhabi for that matter, there are certain factors that have made the market dynamic. Now, there are fundamentals that have always pushed the market. You have world-class infrastructure over here. The connectivity is great. The safety is still here. There's a huge inflow of FDI. There are companies setting up businesses over here. So it's a combination of factors that have pushed investors to come into the market. At the same time, your developers had seen that last year. Developers saw that the number of investors or the number of buyers that were purchasing property over here was crazy. So they thought that, fine, there is appetite in the market, let's launch products. So they kept on launching new products and buyers kept on buying it. That's why, like I said earlier, we saw a record number of launches, we saw a record number of transactions. So it's more to do with, is there an appetite in the market? Yes, there was appetite in the market. There is still appetite in the market.
Yeah. So safe haven status continues, and there's a lot of outside noise about Dubai's safe haven status, but I see that as continuing. So that attracts, I guess, global capital, because the perception is different when it comes to the actual money, I suppose, even though we've got this volatility externally at the moment. How do you contextualize these numbers, this 57,000 new homes against 2024, 2025? Is this a new peak or is this a new plateau?
I wouldn't say it's a peak. I wouldn't say it's a plateau either. So the situation at the moment is too dynamic, right? Okay. Now, in the first 2 months of this year, like I said, we saw a record number of transactions. But then coming to March, coming to April, we did see transactions, when compared to the last year, moderate slightly. Now, like I said, the reason for that being because we had a reduction in new launches and your off-plan segment, for example. Now, majority of the transactions that happen within the off-plan segment are initial sales. So around 80% of off-plan transactions are initial sales.
Okay.
What that means is that those are sales done directly by developers.
Right.
So if there's a reduction in new launches, your initial sales would go down.
Gotcha.
right?
Gotcha.
So the resale market at the moment isn't that big. It's just 5% of the market. And you need to reach a certain level of construction completion for you to actually resale that property. So each developer has their own things. Some developers have it at 40%, some have it at 50%, some even have it at 60%. So if you need to keep the momentum going, you need to have new launches.
Yeah.
On top of that, we had Ramadan towards the middle of February. It went on till March. We had our Eid holidays as well. And then the whole situation that started off in March.
Yeah.
So it's a combination of those factors. Now, if you were to, let's say that, fine, the transactions numbers fell down because of the situation, that wouldn't be right. Because your transaction numbers basically have a lag. What I mean by a lag is that the transaction numbers that we're seeing at the moment, it includes a combination of deals that were signed pre-conflict and post-conflict. Now, for us to definitely say that, okay, what percentage of that is post-conflict is a bit difficult at the moment. That's why if you would want to get a better understanding of what the market situation is like, you would have to wait until the end of Q2. That's when the lag completely gets over. And that's when you would start seeing if there is any impact in the market at all.
And depending on whatever happens in the interim, of course, as well.
That's right. That's right.
No, it's interesting this because it's very easy, isn't it, to attribute one particular quarter to an isolated incident, or it was definitely this, or it was this. But what you obviously have to do is to make the case, well, there is this, but there was also this. And don't forget this. Yeah, okay.
I'm sorry, I'll tell you one more thing what happened. So during last year, we saw 4 months where the transaction numbers fell down.
Right.
So looking at transaction numbers on a monthly basis, like comparing it month on month, wouldn't be necessarily right because we wouldn't know what has happened in that specific month. Now, we didn't have anything last year, but we did still see 4 months in which your transaction numbers fell down. Does that mean that the market was weak? No, the market still ended with record number of transactions.
Got you. What about demographics of buyers, Ali? Who's buying now? Is it the traditional? It's kind of always been European, Indian investors. I know I'm using that loosely, but that's kind of been the situation historically. Are we seeing a shift?
Not necessarily. No. So the thing is that while we don't have the exact numbers for nationality, unfortunately, the data that we receive through DLD, for example, doesn't provide the nationality because of safety reasons.
Sure.
But from what we gauge from speaking to brokers or developers for that matter, it's still the same. You have your investors from your Asian countries, such as Indians, Pakistanis, Chinese for that matter, and then you have your Europeans as well. Okay. Now, Asians and Europeans are basically the top two at the moment, and they have been investing in Dubai for the last couple of years, and I don't think that will change anytime soon.
Okay. If it's a really hard question to answer, a slightly unfair question, but if you had to gauge what these latest figures, this headline figure of 57,000, it's a hefty figure. What does that tell you about buyer confidence, do you think?
No, in terms of buyer confidence, like I said, the transaction numbers that we're seeing at the moment is a combination of pre and post-war.
Yeah.
Now, the thing is, people are still transacting. It's not like your transaction levels have fallen off the roof.
Yeah.
We still saw close to around 3,000 to roughly 4,000 transactions in the ready segment. And we saw, again, majority of the market was within off plan. So buyers are still investing in the market. What I see at the moment is there is basically a tug of war between buyers and sellers. Now, buyers are looking for great deals. Sellers, on the other hand, are still holding on to the price. Now, I have a really close friend of mine who's a broker who has been in the region for the last 15 years. So he was telling me that he has an investor who's ready to invest in the market, but they're looking for a good deal at the moment, or they're looking for something which everyone in the market calls like a distressed deal, which we haven't seen as such at the moment.
Right.
And I think buyer confidence is still there in the market. Otherwise, you would have seen transactions gone off the roof by now. I mean, have fallen by now.
That's a familiar story, actually. It's interesting. The whole point at the moment from everybody you talk to is, I really want to I could get a great deal now. People are going to be, but there are no distressed deals as far as I can tell. There are some sales. There is a little bit of worry, obviously, but it's certainly not. I don't think you could pitch it as a distressed sale market in any way.
Not at the moment. No, typically your real estate market works on longer cycles. It's not like an equity market where you would see the change happening so quickly. Fine, I get that there is a certain sense of cautiousness in the market, which is true given the situation that we have on hand. investors, buyers, end users, everyone's a bit cautious. Everyone's planning a bit ahead. Okay, what to anticipate. And again, real estate is not a short-term investment. It's a long-term investment. So you need to understand that, fine, if you're buying a property at the moment, how is it going to perform probably 5 years down the line? Or what return on investment are you expected to get out of it? So it's a combination of multiple things at the moment, I would say. Fine, there is cautiousness in the market, but again, the numbers prove on how much transactions we have seen so far this year.
Do you know what's interesting? Is what interests me is that it's not interesting, and I'll explain what I mean by that. I don't mean that to sound negative. The real story is where the money is going to me, and there's no change in that at all.
Yes. So off plan,
because it's off plan, and it's always off plan, and that 75% figure is that's been pretty constant as far as I can remember, almost.
Yeah. For the last couple of, I think, 2 or 3 years, your off-plan market has dominated the market.
Yeah.
Within April as well, the percentage of off-plan transactions grew more. So it was at roughly around 85%, just specifically in April. So off-plan is something which is more attractive than compared to your ready property, because again, within your ready segment, you need to basically there are 2 types of buyers. One who could pay a cash upfront.
Yeah.
The other option is basically to get a mortgage. So within a mortgage, what you need to do is you need to pay a 20% down payment, and the remaining the bank would cover. Now, off-plan, on the other hand, you could probably just do a 5% payment and then pay the remaining amount as and when the construction progresses. And then you have your post-handover payment plans as well. So at the moment, what we are seeing is that developers are incentivizing buyers more. So they are offering a better deal in terms of handover, in terms of post-handover payment plans, in terms of offers such as waivers on service fees, DLD charges, and all those things.
Yeah. It's interesting this for another reason as well. If you delve into this, there's this level of confidence in the Dubai market, particularly the off-plan market, because intuitively, I would think when times are tougher, when there's more uncertainty, you want to invest in something you can touch.
Yeah.
There's that bricks and mortar kind of mentality, right? But this is still, the off-plan market is still that little bit beyond that. It's still almost intangible.
Yeah.
But the confidence in this is being demonstrated continually. Yeah. Do you see where I'm going? Yeah. That's the thing that is kind of counterintuitive about this market, almost.
I wouldn't say
kind of.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, but the thing is that you always need to understand that Dubai has more or less bounced back from whatever it has dealt with previously. You had your global financial crisis, you had COVID-19 as well. Now, you would say that the current situation is different from what those situations were. But when those situations initially happened, they were different situations as well. Those were first time as well.
That's a fair point. Yeah.
UAE has always bounced back. Now, off-plan as a segment, like I said, there are multiple factors that have made it attractive. And over the course of a couple of years, those projects will eventually get delivered, right? Now, if you are an investor, what you would look at ideally is the capital appreciation. That is the reason people are still investing in off-plan. You have your attractive payment plans, you have your lower entry points, and at the same time, if you top that off with, let's say, capital appreciation, or by the time you would want to sell your property, the value would increase. That's definitely a good investment decision for any investor. That's the reason it's keeping the off-plan segment too attractive to buyers. That's the reason you're seeing that almost 75 to 80% of the market is still off-plan.
It comes down to common sense in the end, doesn't it? It does. What do you make of the geopolitical tensions in terms of the impact on investor behavior? How would you characterize what we're seeing?
Like I said, your developers have reduced the number of launches. So developers have already approached a wait and see approach. Yeah. Investors on this are doing the same thing as well. So it's a combination of both developers and investors are seeing how the situation evolves.
Right.
If the situation gets resolved as soon as possible, you'll probably see developers introducing more units into the market or launching more products. That would then in turn attract investors as well.
Last year, 2025, was I think we characterised it as gangbusters on here for the market, and there's no doubt that that's true. It was figures were it seemed like there were records month on month.
Exactly.
We've seen some record figures for, real ultra high-end property in the last few weeks, some incredible figures. But it has slowed down. But what's driving demand, even though things are, slightly off the frenetic pace of 2025?
If you're asking specifically for the luxury or ultra luxury segment, the thing is that even with the situation currently on hand, the fundamentals that were there, that attracted basically your high net worth individuals and ultra high net worth individuals, are still there.
Yeah.
Connectivity was one of the reasons why people invested over here. It's still there. Your tax-free environment, it's still there.
Yeah.
Safety, it's still there. Even with this whole situation on hand, everyone's still there over here. People haven't. If you, let's say you were to go out during peak rush hour, you'll still see the traffic on road. So whatever fundamentals that kept or that made the buy attractive are still in play. It's just that, like I said, investors are waiting and they're seeing on if they can get a better deal in the market. So it's not like they don't have confidence in the market. We were in chat with a ultra high net worth individual a couple of weeks back. So he was asking about how the situation is there, how is the situation on ground. Now, he wasn't worried about what's going to happen to Dubai. He was like, I'm confident enough that the market would bounce back. That's not an issue. What he wanted to know was that how is the market performing in general? So people that are investing over here, they know that they've seen how the market has grown over the last couple of years, or the last decade, if I were to say.
Yeah.
And they feel that, it will bounce back again.
I was going to ask, are buyers more cautious in 2026? But I suppose kind of, but there's nothing out of the ordinary here, is there?
No, it's expected.
Yeah.
So the thing is that, fine, there is still a sentiment of cautiousness in the market. Your numbers at the moment wouldn't necessarily tell you that.
Right.
If you want to exactly know that how the situation is like, we'll probably have to wait until the end of Q2. When we figure out that, fine, all the lags that we have within the transactional data gets over, that's when we would ideally come to know that, fine, how is the sentiment like? Is it down? Is it up? At the moment, investors are waiting, are seeing if there are any good deals in the market. But like I said, if there's a good deal in the market, people are still investing.
Yeah, so the sentiment is still positive, isn't it? Yeah, okay. We've seen some pretty amazing decisions in the last, I feel like it's a week, 10 days, to be honest with you. An overhaul in lots of ways in property laws recently. Scrapping of minimum investment amounts for visas, bank accounts for non-residents, just a couple of examples. Obviously, there's the Metro Gold Line as well, so infrastructure development. How much do regulatory changes or the infrastructure development moves contribute to the resilience that we're seeing in the data that you're publishing?
Now, most of the decisions that came in happened in the last couple of weeks. Now, for them to actually have an impact on transaction number would take some time.
Sure.
We were anticipating that there would be changes in regulation. So I was speaking to a colleague of mine last week on Monday, saying that we should hopefully see a few changes in the market in terms of regulation. And then on Wednesday and Thursday, they announced that they would scrape off the upper limit of 750,000 dirhams on a property visa.
Yeah.
Now, Dubai has always been an attractive and a proactive market. So they are quite adaptive to situation. They're quite proactive. So whatever something that has happened in the market, they see, okay, how do we attract more? How do we attract more investment? How do we attract more investors? And that's when your regulation comes under play. There were regulations previously as well. Those supported the market. And if you see at the moment with the changes in regulation or even the support package that was launched by the Dubai government, all those factors just basically tells that, fine, there is confidence in the market, or at least that the government is doing something to basically improve the sentiment in the market.
Which areas or which property segments are performing the strongest?
Now, majority of your transactions, I'll first talk about from a transactional point of view, then I'll talk about from a sales price point of view. Now, in terms of transactions, apartment has always dominated the market because majority of the launches have always been within the apartment segment, and that's not surprising at all. Now, in terms of sales prices, what we had seen in the month of April specifically, so there was a combination of few areas which performed really well. there were a combination of areas that saw a minor decline as well. Now, for example, downtown or Business Bay, on a month-on-month basis, they saw a decline in sales prices. But then on the same hand, you have your villa communities such as the Mac Hills and a few other villa communities where we saw an uptick in sales prices as well. So it's a combination of multiple factors currently in place. So there are certain areas performing good, there are certain areas which saw a decline in sales prices as well.
Okay, and it all balances in the end, I guess, doesn't it? Did you see, I mean, there were lots of property commentators who saw not a correction this year, and I'm talking early January here, but foresaw a recalibration or a stabilization. There were lots of different euphemisms used, of course. But do you see the market starting to stabilize, kind of enforced stabilization because of events, because of what we've seen in the last 4 or 5 years? I mean, it's been stratospheric, hasn't it?
See, like I said earlier, your real estate market works in cycles. Right?
Sure.
There's only a certain limit in which a market can go up. People need to understand that it won't go up for the next 15, 20 years. That's really.
I feel like we don't think that way here.
Exactly. So people who think that the market is going to go up to the next 15, 20 years, that's not realistically going to happen because that has never happened.
No.
But what we saw last year was that there was a moderation in growth. What I mean was that compared to, let's say, 2024, for example, the sales price and the rental rate growth ranged between 14 to 16%. We had already seen that moderation happen in the second half of 2025, even before the conflict started. That's basically to do with more of a real estate cycle rather than anything else.
Right.
So the moderation was there. So we had seen price appreciation slow down. We didn't see price appreciation go down, but it was more in terms of how much it was growing, the pace that it was growing. Yeah. So if, for example, in 2024, it grew at, let's say, 14 to 16%, what we saw last year was between 10 to 13% for them.
Okay. What trends are developers watching closely this year? What are developers really looking at the moment, do you think?
Again, like any investors, developers are also seeing how the situation changes. If they...
It's the wait-and-see approach.
Exactly.
Really.
It's the same for them as well. But that's the reason you haven't seen any new launches.
Yeah.
You're seeing developers offer more incentives compared to last year, but that is expected because you want to attract investors. You want to make the market more attractive, basically, for them.
Yeah. Could the second half of this year, I mean, we use this phrase bounce back ability for Dubai, and it kind of fits historically. It's the general attitude, I suppose. Could the second half of this year bring another, maybe even stronger rebound in transactions?
Is that a prediction that you're asking me?
That's called the crystal ball question.
Yeah, I always tend to say that your guess is as good as mine.
Right.
Now, the situation on ground at the moment is so fluid that if the situation changes next week, definitely you would see a better performance. But like I said initially, majority of your market is off plan. Within that, majority of it is initial sales.
Yeah.
So for you to keep that momentum up, you need new launches. Now, how developers react to the current situation is something that we need to see. Yeah. I wouldn't put in a direction to it because people have been predicting about the market for the last 2 years. There are analysts who have been saying that the market is expected to go down by the end of 2025. That didn't happen. Like I said, my guess is as good as yours. What you can do, on the other hand, is basically look for signs. That's what I tell young researchers. Rather than predicting what's going to happen to the market, look for signs in the market. And those signs are basically how much supply is coming into the market.
Right.
What's the absorption rate in the market? What's the pace in which new launches are happening? Are sales price and rental rates growing at the same pace as it used to? What's the number of rental contracts in the market? So you have to look at different indicators to basically gauge or make a educated guess on what could happen to the market. That's what I would tell any investor, buyer, or a young researcher for that matter. Look at these signs.
Yeah, it's still caveat emptor, isn't it? Buyer beware, I guess. The headline, though, is 57,000 homes in 120 days in the first 4 months of the year. Ali Siddiqui, research manager at the property consultancy Cavendish Maxwell. Appreciate you sharing your insights. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Tim.
Good to have you here.
Take care.
This is Mira Business FM.
Mira Business FM. The sound of success. Mira Business FM. The sound of success.
It's Mira Business FM. It is the morning drive. New research from Oxford Economics. Our guest warned us this was coming, and he's here. And what the research shows is that the UAE economy could face a major hit if foreign workers leave the region. There's a lot more detail to it than just that statement. It says growth, productivity, government finances could all come under pressure if migrant inflows slow sharply. Azad Zangana is the head of GCC macroeconomic analysis at Oxford Economics and is back in the studio. It's good to see you.
Thank you. Good morning.
Appreciate you coming in, Azad. The report highlights a risk that many in the boom times tend to overlook. We've seen, I think this goes without saying, significant geopolitical volatility lately. First of all, why is the UAE economy specifically so sensitive to a drop in net inward migration compared to other global hubs?
Well, naturally, being very reliant on migrant workers means that you need to ensure you have steady growth of those workers in order to fill the jobs that are being created in the economy. The national indigenous population just simply isn't large enough and can't possibly grow fast enough to keep up with the pace of demand. So, of course, the migrant population is incredibly important for the economy overall.
It's this growth demographic, isn't it, that I find really interesting here. The high ratio of foreign workers and how it drives everything from construction to consumer spending. It's what drives this nation, isn't it?
Yes, and beyond just having foreign workers for the sake of having foreign workers, it's also moved on to drive, for example, the real estate market, because clearly the real estate market is constructing more properties than the, again, indigenous Emirati population will ever want to consume. Yeah. They don't need that many properties. So you not only need the migrant population to keep coming in to fill those jobs, but also to take up the homes, to use up the services, to enjoy the retail space and the leisure activities that are also being built to help support the population growth.
How real is the risk of a migrant labour shock in the UAE right now?
Look, it's not a baseline forecast. It's not an expectation. And at the end of the day, it would be very difficult to tell if one has actually happened because we just don't have the data to be able to say, look, the population is coming down, or look, this number of people have left this month but then come back the following month. We just don't know. What we can say is, anecdotally, I think everybody knows at least a few people that have decided to leave. We probably all know some people that have left and actually since come back as well. So really, we're just trying to answer the question, what happens if there is a big shock? If, for example, 5% of the population decide to leave and not come back, and if the security concerns going forward continue to be severe enough that, let's say, there's a 20% reduction in the number of people that want to come in going forward into the future. What does that do? Well, it has quite a big impact on future growth because companies can't then fill those jobs that they need to fill to continue to produce, providing goods and services.
Okay, so what was it's hypothetical, obviously, and I understand that, but what was it that made you decide we're going to model this right now?
Again, it's really being driven by the risk that is clearly there, that we're seeing potentially taking place, but also because we're getting a lot of client questions from around the world. I think everybody knows that this region is very reliant on migrant workers, that they need them to come in. And of course, the general media coverage of people trying to leave the region since the start of the conflict has prompted those questions. So we did our best to try to see, well, if we put together some scenarios of a significant but still realistic shock to the migrant population, what would it then do to not only GDP growth, but inflation, public finances as well?
And GDP growth is obviously tied to the availability of a workforce, a global workforce. The report forecasts a hit to GDP, doesn't it? What are the factors driving the slowdown?
So Obviously, if you don't have the workers required to continue to expand, you are limited in what you can do. Now, in reality, you probably would see companies increasing pay by quite a lot more in order to get the workers to still come in. But there's still going to be a limitation. Ultimately, these kind of risks around security will hinder the ability of companies to grow. If you think about some of the riskier parts of the world, that's always been the case, be it in Latin America, certain parts of Asia, or even parts of Africa. Security concerns can obviously restrict the level of growth just because people are not prepared to go there for whatever the wage is being offered.
It's the stop and think.
Exactly.
Isn't it? Yeah.
Now, the other factor that we discuss in the note is, well, what if companies just decide to invest more in AI and robotics and just replace more workers? Well, first of all, that's quite expensive to do. Secondly, is the technology really ready to be able to do that? And then also the other point that we make is, well, actually a lot of jobs can't be replaced by AI. Especially when it comes to kind of manual labor, domestic help, these kind of things. It's just not feasible for everything to be replaced by AI. Of course, some jobs can be, and that's a potential upside risk to the projections we're putting out there, but it's not feasible for it to work everywhere.
I'm heartened, actually, I have to say, because that's a much more positive message about AI this morning. So I'm going to thank you for that. One of the things we saw in the federal budget in 2026, I think I've got my figures right, I'm sure you'll know this, was a 29% jump in spending towards We Are the UAE 2031 goals, right? If the workforce contracts, does that put ambitious national projects, like the Metro's Gold Line or AgTech, or is it Agritech? I'm never sure which one it is, at fiscal risk, is my question. Because the potential for stagnation is there. Large-scale infrastructure projects stall if you don't have the human capital you need to run them. Does that make sense?
Yeah, and I think I think there would be a potential risk to some of these projects.
Right.
But what we see, and I'd say this is for the region in general, is that when authorities decide to invest in a long-term infrastructure project, they typically are not too concerned by near-term fiscal pressures.
Okay.
And so I think, for example, in the UAE, yes, you might see a hit this year, for example, to the population, and future growth may reduce. But that's not to say that it's still not growing. It still grows, and therefore the need for a lot of this infrastructure is probably still required. So the tube line, for example, it's desperately needed regardless of what happens.
Yes.
But will we need the second line? Maybe not straight away. Maybe it would be 10, 20 years later. These are the kind of questions they'll be grappling with.
And these are long-term infrastructure projects, of course. So which sectors would be hit hardest if we see, I was going to say mass exodus, and that's completely the wrong phrase, but if we do see a reduction in foreign workers?
So we think it will be the sectors, first of all, that are not considered to be strategically important. So, the sectors that are very likely to be quite well protected are, for example, government, oil and gas, transportation as well, so likely to be very important. But the sectors that rely more on Western expats are likely to require those kind of workers, and those are the workers that are harder now to try to bring across and would require a much larger pay increase than some of the other sectors. So, for example, finance, real estate, information technology potentially as well, and some of the more independent sectors as well in terms of investment in artificial intelligence, these kind of life sciences in addition. Sectors such as construction probably will be fine. They can probably still bring workers, migrant workers in Southeast Asia or other parts of the world. But then the question is then, if you see a first round hit from people with high net worth leaving, then the second round effect will be a hit to demand for real estate, which then might impact construction in that way. But that would be less likely to be a labor supply problem, but more of a demand problem that comes in.
Okay. So are we seeing signs of labor disruption at the moment?
Well, there's definitely signs of layoffs. I mean, we look at, speaking to industry figures across the travel and tourism sector in particular, hotels, restaurants have all been laying staff off. We've got to the point now where they've had to take action because clearly demand isn't going to come back in a lot of these areas anytime soon. So they're trying to cut costs where they can. But of course, we just don't have very good data to be able to track exactly how much. This is, again, all just being provided with anecdotal evidence and stories.
No, and I should be at pains to point out that this is a hypothetical, of course, but let me ask you this. Could rising wages impact or damage the UAE's competitiveness going forward?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, in an ideal world, you want to see wages growing in line with your productivity growth. So as your labor force becomes more productive, be it they become better at using AI or whatever it is, or whatever technology that they have, you'd want to see wages growing in line with that. But when you generally have a labor shortage, you usually see wages rising over and above that productivity growth. And that leads to a loss in competitiveness. So what does that mean? Well, it means if companies based here want to try to produce goods or services and compete at the global market and export those services, they will struggle more than other parts of the world on a relative basis.
What does that mean for inflation, for living costs?
Living costs probably rise in some areas, but it's not totally clear it will rise everywhere. Because on the one hand, you will have less people available, wages will be going up, so cost of doing business will be rising. But at the same time, if people are losing their jobs and they're leaving, demand's going to be falling. So some companies won't have the same level of demand as they normally do. On the whole, we probably will see higher inflation, but it's not as a severe shock as, for example, what's going on currently with energy prices or food prices.
Okay. So you take the wins when you can, don't you, I suppose? How concerned should investors be about the longer term outlook?
I think if they were to see, genuine evidence of a large exodus and companies struggling to hire people, then I think they will be more concerned than they are today. And that means deeper discounts on valuations on equities. It means bigger premiums when it comes to bond yields and the amount of lending that they're prepared to do to the region. So these are issues that you need to think about as well. But like I said, you need to have that evidence there. And at the moment, we don't really have a great deal of to point to say this is actually happening. This is all very much a hypothetical simulation.
Sure. I mean, we're hopeful of a resolution. It depends where you read, what you read, and what time you read it, it seems to be. But apparently there is a deal of sorts being considered. In terms of government support, Azad, we've seen the introduction of an economic initiatives package, which in theory will help protect employment, ease financial pressure. Is that a temporary fix, or do we need a fundamental shift in how we retain talent to avoid a major hit?
There's definitely a potential role for government to do more to help companies attract talent. So I think anybody who's been here for probably a decade or more will know that the kinds of benefits and allowances that expats were offered have generally degraded over time. Yeah. And that's absolutely normal because, of course, the pool of talent within the region has grown by sufficient enough that, generally speaking, when a company tries to hire somebody or a team, they don't necessarily look overseas first. They probably look domestically first. And because of that gap in terms of the benefits offered have reduced. So there potentially could be a role to try to help in that situation. But just generally keeping a cap on the cost of living, I think, would be helpful in general. I think many people have seen that cost rise in recent years. Trying to limit that more would be helpful.
Yeah, the government does try to. There are certain measures that are taken, in staples, for example, in that way, and we have seen, shifts towards golden visas. I mean, in the last week or two, the minimum investment requirements for the 2-year visa has changed, for example, as well, I suppose. Let's look forward a little bit. What also could be done? What might be needed even to attract workers back to the region?
Well, again, assuming there is a big hit, then ultimately it will come down to a combination of ensuring security and communicating that level of security to ease fears and to reduce the amount that people would demand to overcome those fears.
Yeah.
But then at the same time, you would need to see pay increase to compensate for that additional risk. So it's a little bit of both that needs to occur.
Okay. Do you think the risks at the moment, the volatility that we're seeing, is this is the crystal ball question, and I apologise, but do you think it's impacting the view that international companies have looking in on the UAE?
Not yet. I think
No?
I don't think that's been the case yet. Certainly, there's no indication of a big change in sentiment so far. And it also depends on who you're asking in terms of which country, because some of the security announcements and notices that were given by home countries have differed quite substantially. So, for example, American citizens were advised to leave the country quite early on in the conflict, whereas British citizens were never told to leave. They were advised to communicate with the Foreign Office in the UK and be aware of alerts, but at no point were they told you should leave or you must leave, whereas some other countries have. So there is a very different view from different countries, and I guess authorities here and across the region probably should spend a little bit more time talking to their counterparts to try to see what they can do to reassure those authorities.
Okay. How does this compare? The only comparison that we have, and it is a recent comparison, is COVID. But how does this compare with labour market, specifically labour market disruption during the COVID period?
Yeah, so COVID was very interesting, and it's probably the only real comparison that we have data for. And of course, it's important to point out that COVID was happening everywhere. Yeah. So leaving this region didn't really mean that you were improving your living situation very much. Plus there were also restrictions on travel, which made it hard to leave to begin with.
Yeah.
But what we found through the evidence from COVID is that the population in Dubai and Abu Dhabi continued to grow, but at a slower pace through 2020, 2021. That's perfectly normal. What was really interesting was Sharjah. The population of Sharjah in particular fell 14% through that period, and then actually recovered the following year.
Okay.
Now, I think this is related to what happens with regards to job security and when there is a pause in activity. You know, we've talked about the travel and tourism industry and the layoffs that are happening there and in restaurants and other areas. We probably saw something very similar through COVID, where more casual work was less protected and people did lose their jobs, even if it was only temporarily. But of course, in that situation where there are no social protections, there's no income replacement or social security available, many of those individuals just simply had to leave the country because it's just too expensive to live here if you haven't built up a huge amount of savings to be able to continue and be unemployed. That could be happening again, and it could also be temporary this time round. But I think what the report is also thinking more generally about is leaving because of a security issue rather than a loss of jobs. So we're talking about Western expats as well as your more general workers.
I wanted to ask you a little bit about we had the OPEC announcement. Since you were last here, it'd be great to talk to you about that, but I have a feeling that's quite a long conversation. So I'll finish off with and stick to the script, as it were. But when it comes to this report, the labour market in particular, what indicators are you going to be watching most closely over the next few months?
So when we do finally get some data on population, on growth in particular, that will give us an indication of what's happening. Employment data would also be very helpful. We're watching as much data that's available at this point in time, although there is a bit of a revamp going on, especially for the UAE's data. So I don't think we're going to get a great deal there. But we're also looking at, for example, data across the Middle East, because we know that Qatar, Bahrain, Kuwait are all going through a very similar situation right now. And where there is data available, we're going to be tracking it very closely.
Okay. It's a reminder, as if we needed a reminder, to be fair, that our most valuable resource isn't oil or real estate, it's the people, isn't it?
Absolutely.
That make it all work. Azad Zangana is from Oxford Economics, the head of GCC Macroeconomic Analysis. Appreciate the reality checks. Good to see you.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming in. This is Mira Business FM. Cheers.
Mira Business FM. The sound of success. Mira Business FM, where business comes to talk.
More business talk now, actually financial and personal financial talk now at Mira Business FM on the morning drive. Some more secret ideas for financial topics that we don't usually think about. That's how I'm pitching this. James Thomas is with me.
Good morning.
He is a licensed independent financial consultant. I'm liking the specs, by the way. You look
They're good, aren't they? Well, I hope they are. I can see.
It
helps.
gives you a level of what's the word? Gravitas.
Gravitas.
Yeah. So there you are. So imagine if we could all, right? Let me pitch you this discussion. If we could all think through every decision, every situation, and never ever waste any of the money that we earn. Imagine that for a minute, because whoever you are, however good you are with money, however tight you are with your money and careful with it you are, you can't avoid some wastage. Some more than others, I realise that. But imagine if you didn't do that at all. So what we've got today, James, and I think this is how I would pitch this, were I selling this, which I'm desperately trying to do, is a checklist of a few simple, and maybe not so simple things, that we can all do or consider doing to eliminate wasting our money and our time.
Yeah.
The things that are
I
kind
think
of
they're
hidden.
all the types of things that we talk about.
Yes.
And like I've always said, it's a balance. Define wastage. And I think this is what these things will help to do. Because if that money that you've spent, other people may view it as wastage. But if you enjoyed whatever it was that you spent that money on, then it wasn't a waste.
Well, that's a good point. I mean, how many times has somebody said to you, "Oh, you spent what on what?"
Yeah.
And you think, "Well, no, I really needed it. I really wanted it. I've saved for whatever it is. Doesn't matter what it is."
Precisely.
Yeah.
And so, therefore, but it was clearly a considered decision. And I think this is where we're getting to with some of the points on today's agenda. It's again all about just having that thought process, that consciousness, that awareness of where that money's going.
Yeah, exactly right. I mean, you hit on the exact word there, and it is considered.
Yeah.
In terms of the decision, that's the point.
Your opening gambit there. If you were to be that, or carry out that level of assessment with every dirham or fil that you spent, you probably wouldn't spend anything because you would be analysing things to such a degree.
It wouldn't be fun, would it?
And you would not be the life and soul of the party, would you? You would, you would be the person that people would not want to go out to dinner with because you would be the one pulling the bill out, looking at every last line item. No, don't get me wrong, there's no harm in checking to make sure that bill is yours and not the table next door. But it's that fine, that's that line, isn't it? That,
it is.
I didn't have that, oh no, that's your. You see a bill, it's X dirham, however many around the table, you split it. Sometimes you win, sometimes you lose.
Yeah.
But overall, it works out that you pay your fair share.
Right.
And you, in my opinion, you don't want to be that person that your friends, colleagues, whoever, that you're going out for dinner with, lunch, whatever it may be. Oh no, he's going to assess every last dirham. He's going to pull the bill to pieces. We're going to have to pay to the last fill our share. He's going to argue about the tip. And you could, exactly.
It becomes interesting, actually.
But also from your own person, it just then becomes so.
Well, it takes over, and that's the point.
You've gone out for a lovely dinner, and you ruin it because you've stressed over how you're paying for it.
So, right, I'm going to give you some headlines, all right? And I'll give you the core idea for each headline. And there are some of these things that will be they'll hit automatically. Some of them are, I think, quite thought-provoking. I hadn't really spent a lot of time thinking about this. First thing is, business of inconvenience. Convenience is a thing now. We all love convenience. Everybody likes getting their takeaway, whatever it is. But what if inconvenience is deliberately designed because it makes more money? Have you ever tried to cancel an online subscription to, I don't know, a shopping service or something similar? It ain't easy.
Not easy. And again, this comes back to all the things we've discussed, because we've used TV subscriptions. You can end up with half a dozen of them if you're not careful.
Quite easily,
for different, because you've seen something you want to watch, and of course it's on a different package.
Mm-hmm.
You sign up, or you want to have the football, or you want to have the Formula One, whatever it may be. You end up having all these different services. Great, easy to sign up. And I'm always conscious, you see something, free to sign up, but they want your credit card details. Or free trial, but they want your credit card details.
Yep.
Well, what's the next step? That free trial will quickly pass. Before you know it, your credit card has been charged. Yep. And as you quite rightly say, then how do you get out of that subscription? Have you signed up for 12 months without even realizing it? Is it monthly?
Well, very often it's a rolling subscription, isn't it? It just goes until you cancel.
Well, but often there's a minimum timescale.
Yeah.
Certainly, gyms, they often will be a minimum of 12 months, unless you pay extra to get the flexibility.
See, the thing is with this, there's nothing wrong with this.
If
you make it clear.
Absolutely fine. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with any of the above.
But it's being aware.
But being aware of what you're signing up to. Okay. What are you committing your money to? Because it's your money, your hard-earned salary that you're paying for these services. And while they're all dressed up to look, and again, they're sales. We're all here to sales, make money. And if the thing that you're signing up for is what you want, if you do enjoy that TV package and you watch every last film, series, documentary that's on there, well, then you're going to get your money's worth. No issue with that at all. But if you pay for it and then you find 6 months' time, you can't even remember what the login is because you haven't turned it on. And then, of course, you can't remember the login, so you can't get in, so you can't remember how to cancel it.
I know.
And then you think,
and then you don't bother.
And then you don't bother.
Yeah.
And that's the key. Another 6 months rolls by, and I'm still paying for that.
Yeah.
Oh, well, I've now spent, 1,000 dirhams easily, over a year. Well, what have I got for that? Nothing. But
the point is that companies often profit when you don't complete actions.
Very much so. Again, I use an example of gyms. Perhaps I'm picking on them. But of course, they build a facility. They know they can oversell that because the chances are you're not going to all be there at the same time. And there'll be lots of people who have the great intentions, New Year's resolutions, whatever they may be. Come February, it's a distant memory.
So that is the first point on this list, the business of inconvenience, okay? The second one is the monetization of waiting. Your time spent waiting, whether you're in a queue, you're on hold, you're waiting for an approval, isn't accidental. It is economically useful, is an argument, okay? And I'll explain why. It's not an inefficiency, it's a pricing strategy.
Yes.
Okay. You can then offer fast track fees, for example.
Yes. We go to the airport, the queue for the normal
exactly
security clearance is a mile long. The fast track, there's no one there. Pay £10 or 50 dirhams to go down that one.
Well, exactly. I hadn't really thought about this before, but these are ways that you can. I know these seem like small savings, don't they? But actually, these are hidden potential.
Yeah, if you're in a shop,
over fees.
You queuing for the checkout. Often you're going down an aisle, and there will be things lined up there to inspire you, in inverted commas, to buy more things as you're waiting.
I like that, inspire you.
Yeah, there's some
incentivize, inspire. Yeah, no.
But that's why you're funneled through that passageway, and that's why they want a queue to be there. Because if you just go straight to the front of the queue, you pass by all that and go straight to the till.
Yeah, this is true. This is
and
true.
Again, nothing wrong with that. The shop's there to sell you these things. But it's. If you weren't queuing there, you probably wouldn't, because you'd hopefully have written your list, you've gone in and got whatever it is you wanted, and suddenly you end up going home and there's twice the amount of things that you thought you went out for.
Yeah. This is not supposed to be a lecture. This is just pointing out a few points. A couple of these things
we've been talking about
I had not thought about at all.
No. They're not. And again, if you just take that second to step back and think, do I need this? And suddenly you find, again, it's that we keep talking about, that virtual shopping basket.
Oh, I know.
You put the item in there, and again, but this is all of this. It's sales marketing. It's talking to the two sides of our brain. One side, yeah, we want that, and the other side, they're slightly more sensible. They said, no, you don't need that.
That's true. I mean, I'm going to come to the next point actually, and I think you're going to warm to this theme even more because this is the economics of regret.
Yes.
So the idea here is entire industries relying on you making decisions that you might regret later. And
I want it.
Impulse buying is right at the top of the list, isn't it?
Then it arrives.
Yes.
What on earth have I bought?
I know, and we've all done it. That's the point.
Yes.
And you justify it by saying, it was only 25 dirhams. It was only
a
50
bargain.
dirhams. It was a bargain. It was a really good price. And it probably was a bargain. But will you ever? What are you going to use this for? And how long will it be flavour of the month?
Yeah.
Or flavour of the second?
The second.
Yeah,
exactly. Or more frustratingly, it is something you thought you needed. It turns up and it's not quite what you thought it was. And again, I'm going to throw my wife under the bus. She loves online clothes shopping, but of course...
That's what I was going to bring up.
Clothes are very, of course, the particular...
Fast fashion.
But not even that. I need X, Y, Z. Okay, it arrives, it doesn't fit, not quite how you thought it would look. The model is just, obviously wearing it in its most optimal position and to show it to its best regard. You put it on and suddenly it's not quite what you thought it was. It's true though, isn't it?
It is true, yeah.
And
you put it well.
And suddenly there's a pile of as many clothes to go back as almost that arrived. And I say, sorry, Colette, I've just thrown you under not throwing you under the bus, but it just makes me chuckle. Then she's on the phone, she's on hold, arranging the collection, and of course, whichever courier company, and they're not interested in collecting. I don't know how their economics work, but it would appear they get paid far more. It would appear, and again, my assumption, they get paid for the delivery, not for the collection.
Right.
That might not be the case, but that's how it. And then suddenly, that item is sitting by the front door for days, if not weeks, because the collection hasn't happened.
I thought you'd warm to this theme.
Yeah, but. And then I said, why don't we just go to the mall and then you can try? No, it's easier to do it from here. Well, is it? Because you could go in there, go in the changing room, try it on, decide whether you like it or not. We then go home and you know that the items you've purchased are actually what you wanted and actually fit and do what you want, look how you wanted them to look, as opposed to hoping. I mean, I don't know about you. I pull up these things and it says there's a sale on whichever one, and there's 5,000 items, and I just closed the site straight away because the thought of looking through that many pages of garments just bores them.
Well, that's an incidental side to this.
It is
the 44% off.
Yes,
I always think, really?
Yeah.
I wonder if it is, or is it just the end of the line? You want to get rid of that watch or shoes or whatever it is.
Yeah.
So I get you with that. But the thing is, regret is predictable.
Very.
And if it's predictable, there's a profit to be made from it here. And what is often the case is that return policies are, it's like, just let us know, we'll pick it up, don't worry, it's fine. But it's exhausting when it comes to going through it, I find. And I guess most of the time it's like, what's the point?
Yeah.
So that's something to think about.
There is, and again, just to be aware of, the companies play to that. They know that a percentage of people will not bother to go through the hassle of returning items.
Yes. Yeah, exactly right. Yeah, exactly right. The next one on this list is the financial value of your future self. And this is something that I'm fascinated by this because I hadn't thought of this in this way. Companies, this is the core idea of this. Companies don't sell to you now, right? They sell to a version of you that doesn't exist yet. So they're looking at what you might be planning to do, is the point. So a subscription that you plan to lose. Very often, these are things like fitness or upskilling and education and self-improvement, and those are the kinds of things. So the optimism that you might have for the things that you want to do, the looking forward to, I'm going to do that.
I'm going to do that. I'm going to learn that. I'm going to teach myself. I'm going to get myself fit. I'm going to run that 5K, 10K, whatever. Yeah.
And you're ready to make the investment at some point.
Yep.
But the optimism is one of the most monetized human traits.
Of course, because whatever the goal is that you're setting for yourself, they can then sell to that. There's a package, there's a program, there's an app, there's a whatever it may be, and because you've now established that there's something you want to do, they can feed into that.
Have you seen this Instagram thing that's going around at the moment? It's been going around all over the place. It's almost as good as the Kung Fu Cats, which is one of my favourite things in the world.
No, it can't be better than that.
That's just a word. That's what AI is for. That's why we need so much data cooling. But it's this thing where it's men over a certain age. I think it's men over 50, and it's you don't need to go and do powerlifting or any of this stuff. Just do Tai Chi sitting.
Oh, yes.
Have you seen that?
Yes.
It's the most remarkable thing. And the instructor guy, there's loads of different instructors. I think they're just
they all look
avatars. But they look, I mean, these guys look ripped.
Yeah.
And then there's like the guys that's probably not done as much exercise as he probably could have done. And he transforms in 3 weeks.
3 weeks.
Brilliant.
I know, amazing.
I'm sold.
Only pay X.
It's a good example of this.
It is.
Yeah.
But there's many, many examples of that. And again, all I would say, please don't be put off in whatever it is that you want to do, but also be realistic that 3 weeks, you're probably not going to go from where you are to 5% body fat and having every muscle on display and running 5Ks and whatever it might be.
Yeah.
It's going to take time and patience and consistency.
Particularly when you're an over 50-year-old man.
Yes.
Or, woman, to be fair as well. So that's the financial value of your future self to be thought about. And that's something I really hadn't sort of thought through very much.
But it's so powerful to sell to.
It's selling to the version of either, your future version of you, the ultimate version of you that we're all working towards. I mean, I've been doing that all my life. One day I'll get there. So the next one is the anti-ownership economy.
This is really interesting.
This is very, very interesting. Ownership is kind of quietly disappearing. It's not because it's outdated. It's just not as profitable. So everything we do, we don't buy music anymore. We subscribe to a service now.
Yep.
And I kind of miss that. And I
we've
wonder
discussed this in one of our passions, isn't it? That an LP and a vinyl with a lovely artwork on there.
LP's good.
LP's fine. Is it still? Yeah, but
the long player.
The long player, exactly. But you get that, or a double, and then it opens up, and there's the lyrics, and there's someone has
sleeve. I know.
Someone has gone to so much effort to design the look of that.
This is so two grumpy old men talking.
But it is. But why I mention it? But now, what do? Just click, listen.
Yeah, well, again, you're back to convenience, but it is an anti-ownership thing. So it's licensing,
you don't
not
own
owning.
That.
Yeah.
It's not your copy of that piece of artwork, material, music.
It's not to say that it's a bad idea. A friend of mine sent me a song yesterday and said, I think you'll like this, have a listen to it. And I loved it. And I listened to the band all day, lots of different things. And I'm grateful for the introduction because I hadn't heard it. That's fine. And because I have access to my particular platform.
That's the flip side. You now got the name of the band and off you go down there.
Well, I will more than likely buy some physical, physical, what do they call it? I'll buy an album. There you go. That's easier. I always look for long words when I don't need to. That's the thing I have to stop. But we're away from that ownership thing. My kids, for example, quite like vinyl. I think that's kind of a retro thing. But Spotify or Apple Music, whatever they use, that's the key thing for them.
It is.
But you pay for that every month. It's an unintended purchase every month. It's back to the subscription model.
Indeed. Cars is another one that's mentioned here, but I, not so much, funny and interestingly, here in the UAE, but certainly UK, Europe, US, certainly UK that I've more knowledge of, 80 to 90% of all new cars are purchased, in inverted commas, via a lease or some form of finance.
Yes,
so you don't
okay.
actually own that car. It's all about what that monthly cost is. And indeed, people don't pay very little attention to what the price is now, because it's all about what that monthly cost is.
Yeah.
And then after 2, 3, 4 years, they simply give it back and start again. But you're always just renting. You're never really owning. Now, the flip side of that, the argument is there's no hassle, there's no maintenance. But of course, a brand new car, you would hope, shouldn't give you any hassle or issues, in though they do sometimes. But you would think, as a overall rule, that a new car would be far more reliable than an older one.
Yeah,
So actually, you're buying and paying for that service that you probably don't need, because the item would be reliable anyway.
No, I see what you mean.
And there's a lot of manufacturers now, even just to follow on the subscriptions, there are options in the car that you have to pay a subscription for, or you can pay a subscription for. They're already built into the vehicle,
That's right,
and
that's
you have
right.
to pay extra to get those to be turned on
Yeah.
or to use.
Yeah. So stability for you, that one-time kind of payment thing, it means less recurring revenue, and that's whether it's good or bad is immaterial. It depends
It's
how
just to
you
be
view it,
aware
depends
of.
what you use, but it is about awareness.
Yes.
It's kind of a good place to end, because we're a little bit over time, but there are other things in this. Maybe we'll come back to
I
this
think we should.
actually at
There's
some point as well, because there are two particular elements of this that I'd never ever thought about before.
Well, there you
I
go.
thought,
There's a cliffhanger for next week.
That's me. So the idea today is a few secret and not so secret ideas, to be fair, for financial outlays that we don't really examine or think about a great deal. And we'll come back to those extra points next week. For now, James Thomas is a licensed independent financial consultant. He's based here in Dubai, and thanks for coming in.
Pleasure. Thank you.
Appreciate it. This is Mira Business FM.
Mira Business FM, Dubai's home of business radio.